All right, welcome in. We are here for week 2 NFL Sunday. It is the 15th. We are about an hour away from game time, so we are kind of squeezing in our last picks and making sure our cards and our fantasy football lineups and all that stuff looks good before we jump in. I'm joined today by Eric. You can check him out at Eric Weideke on Twitter. Does some of the gambling content with us. And we're going to fly through, talk about the NFL lines. We have 2 promos that we have here at 5 Reasons Sports. One of them is with Prize Picks. Use the code 5, get yourself $50 when you place a $5 lineup. We always have our Prop 5 or Take 5s going on, so you can check out those. A lot of people have been winning money. Major Money, he's killing it. Ross is killing it, so make sure you're checking out those guys, and they're giving you the Prize Picks. And then we also have Better Edge. Better Edge is a social betting marketplace. You can set your own lines. You can, if you see everywhere else it's 7.5 and you want to make it 9.5 and pay more, get more juice on top, or if you want to make a line that's 3.5 down to 3, you can set the line, or you can search the marketplace and buy from people that have put out their lines elsewhere. So you're not paying the house, you're competing against other people. It's really a good platform, especially if you're line shopping. So check that out. Use the code 5RSN and get yourself $20 from 5 Reasons Sports when you sign up. So Eric and I, we're going to kind of just ping pong around the 1 o'clock slate just so you can get yourself mentally prepared for an hour from now. There are 10 games at 1 o'clock. You're going to need multiple TVs or in a great bar setup to watch all these games. Maybe some of them turn ugly and you can kind of tune them out. But let's start potentially one of the ugliest games, unfortunately. Chargers and Panthers. Panthers got the hell beat out of them last week. Chargers look good in a win. I'm not necessarily sold that the Chargers maybe are as good as they were in week 1. Eric, do you have anything on this game or any opinions on this game?
I know a lot of people have kind of reflexively jumped onto the Panthers a little bit as kind of this whole, maybe we're overreacting to how bad the Panthers are. I know it's a 3-hour flight over. I don't think we're overreacting to how bad the Panthers are. I think that they are a dumpster fire. That team is going to be in competition for the number 1 overall pick again. At 4.5 points, I think the Chargers coast by a touchdown in this one. Even with the jet lag.
Yeah, I was one of the people last week. It was kind of a trendy thing to back the Panthers. I had them on the spread. I had them on the money line. And that was pretty much one you could throw in the trash at about, 1:15 in the afternoon. That game was over. I think little Bryce Young threw a pick on the first pass of the game. I mean, it was just not a good look. I don't have anything in terms of bets or props on this game. If I was leaning one way or another, I just think – I don't know if the Chargers are necessarily that good to be laying. I mean, it's down to 4.5 now, 5.5 some places. I think if it was high, like when it was up by like 6.5, I was leaning Panthers. But now that it's starting to come down a little bit, which means that there were people backing the Panthers at that higher number, I just don't. It's a popular survivor pick too for the Chargers because I don't think a team that a lot of people think are that great. But when you're playing the Panthers, and it's their home opener, which is not much of a home advantage, I think the Chargers win this one. And like you said, I think comfortably by a touchdown. And it's probably a closer game than most people think, maybe a low-scoring game. The Chargers like to run the ball. So that's the first game we're going to go through. Saints-Cowboys, also 1 o'clock. Cowboys are 6.5-point favorites. Anything on this game?
This is one that I tend to want to stay away from a little bit more, just given the way that both teams kind of performed in week 1. I think that there might be, overreaction going in both directions. Although I think with the Saints, it's one of those, well, you beat the Panthers, so what kind of things. If I were to have a lean in any particular direction, I would probably go with the total, and I would play the under in this one. I think it's 41 is last I saw. For this game here, 47.5. Yeah, I'm going under on this one. Both of these teams have really good defenses. I can't see a lot of scoring in this one personally.
Yeah, and I'm going to correct myself. The last game I do have a prop. I have Josh Palmer under 39.5 receiving yards in that one. I agree with you. I think the Saints were obviously the team that beat the hell out of the Panthers last week. I think the Cowboys win. What are we at? 6.5, I think is still the total or still the spread.
Yep.
Yeah, I think anything under a touchdown, it'd be a good game if you believe in the Cowboys in this one. You could tease it down, and you're basically playing for them to win. If you take that 6-point teaser, I also bet on this, and our guy Ray, that's a big Saints fan, he gave me some shit for it. I have Cowboys minus 19.5 at plus 450. I just don't buy into Derek Carr and the Saints, so I sprinkled a little bit on that one. I do think the Cowboys win. I think Dak has a good game. I'm unfortunately going against him in fantasy this week, so I think the Cowboys can really put it to them, and I think the Cowboys are a good team. Maybe not as good as they have been in past years, but I think they're going to have a good season. Let's see here. Raiders Ravens. Raiders are underdogs 8.5 points in Baltimore. Ravens obviously lost to the Chiefs in that opening night thriller. Raiders, I mean, I don't think a very good team this year. What do you any opinion on this one?
I don't have an opinion on the game itself. This is one that I did have a Prize Picks play on. You can, I'm sure you can get it on the markets at a very similar number. Lamar Jackson rushing yards, I had him over 49.5. He slimmed down this season with the express purpose of being able to be a little bit more mobile. And I think that he's going to take full advantage of his legs again. He ran for well over that number against Kansas City. Might not have to do it against the Raiders as much, but I still think he's probably going to rip off a couple big ones.
Yeah, I like that. Isaiah Likely, I have him under 3.5 receptions. He was kind of a breakout guy in week 1. Was it just the scheme he got open? You know, is Mark Andrews going to be back? He was really not used a lot in that week 1 game. And I think the rushing yards, as you said, I have Derrick Henry having a good game today, especially if they get up early. I think they pound the ball with Derrick Henry. So I think he's potentially going over 100 yards. You know, one of those things where you could put him as a 100-yard rusher, maybe get one of those goblins on Prize Picks or look for the props elsewhere. Next one up we got is the Bucks and the Lions. I think this is going to be a sneaky good game in the 1 o'clock window. The Lions, I thought, looked good. Obviously, the game was closer than a lot of people thought going to overtime on that Sunday night game. And then the Bucks obviously ripped off a week 1 win. Baker Mayfield is, you know, maybe the early kind of dark horse MVP candidate. We'll see if he can keep that up because he played very well in week 1. But the Lions are a 7.5-point favorite. Again, it's one of those games where a lot of people are going to use this for Survivor. A lot of people are going to look to tease that down to 1.5. What do you think? Any opinions on this or plays on this game?
Man, this feels like a trap. I'm staying away from this one way or the other. You know, the total is extremely high, and I think it's going to be a high scoring game, but I still wouldn't touch it at the number it's at. I think it's, what is it, like
51.5, I believe.
51.5. Yeah. Let me see in there. 51.5. I still don't. I mean, that's a little high for my tastes personally. This is one I'm avoiding and just enjoying.
I agree. I think the Lions win. 7.5 is not the number you want to play. Obviously, bad number there. I think that total is high. You could lean under. Maybe the Bucks aren't for real. But this game last year was a high-scoring, close game that Baker Mayfield didn't necessarily play great, but the Lions showed up. So we'll keep it moving. We're going to Jets and Titans. Jets and Titans is a 41-point total. And I believe the Jets are favored by 3.5, 3.5 some places. Aaron Rodgers, you know, maybe looked okay. I mean, they played against the 49ers, who might be one of the best teams, if not the best team in the NFL. Any opinion on this game or plays on this game?
My instant opinion is this is one of those where I think that the line is razor thin in terms of what side I would play. I would probably look at, if I like the best odds there at 4.5 for the Titans, I might actually go with that. But if you can get the Jets at, you know, a minus 3.5, like you see on the DraftKings line, I kind of like that one. I think it's pretty tough one way or the other. This is another game where if I'm looking at the total, I'm probably playing the under on this one, particularly if you believe that the Jets are just going to stomp. You know, if you really like the Jets in this one, I would probably maybe combo minus 3.5 and the under there. But I don't feel super strongly one way or the other.
Yeah, I think the only play would be the Will Levis over a half of a boneheaded play where he just throws the ball up to the other team. That's almost a guarantee if you can find that. I don't see it on Prize Picks, but we'll keep hunting for it. Seahawks, Patriots, 2 1-0 teams. It's the longest or second longest trip I think you can make in the NFL. I heard that on a podcast this week. Seahawks are favored by 3. Kenneth Walker's not playing. They still have Zach Charbonnet. Are the Patriots for real? Was last week a fluke? What's up with the Bengals? There's a lot of questions. And the Seahawks did not look necessarily great, even though they got that win. Any opinions on this game?
You know, I think it probably says a little bit more about Seattle than New England, but I'm taking New England plus the points. Okay. It's a long flight over, and if there's anything that I do believe in with the Patriots, it's their defense. I think it's going to end up playing pretty well. I would take New England plus 3.5 in that one.
Yeah, I like Seattle. The missing Walker kind of it sours me a little bit. I know they have depth in that backfield, but not really. It's not making me feel more confident in taking Seattle, especially like you said with that cross country flight in early games. Your body clock is all messed up. I did have a prop on that one. Polk for the New England Patriots receiver. I have him over 1.5 receptions. If you want to look for that on Prize Picks or other places. We'll keep it moving, though. Browns, Jags. Browns are 3-point underdogs. Jacksonville's at home. Obviously, last week, the Dolphins got the win against the Jaguars. Kind of one of those games that if you're looking at it as a Jaguars fan, you probably think you should have won. If ETN doesn't fumble that ball, they probably have a good chance of winning that one. So Browns looked horrible against the Cowboys. Does it say more about the Cowboys, say more about the Browns? We'll figure that out this week. Deshaun Watson looked like absolute just trash. It was not pretty. So any opinion on this game? 3-point spread here.
Not on the game itself. This is another one where I do like a particular player. Okay. This is I'm all over Jerome Ford anytime touchdown in this one. He's the unquestioned guy in Cleveland right now. And he got his touchdown really in a situation against the Cowboys last week where you would have thought the Browns would have been all in on throwing the football, down, I believe, 27-3 at that point. So I think he's going to continue to get the work regardless of the game script.
I agree. He's very safe in fantasy. If you have him or you're trying to acquire him, he's going to get the ball the way that they play. I'm kind of leaning here. You said this earlier. I think getting points in some of these games where it's almost a toss-up. I'll take the Browns. I have them at 3.5. That's not necessarily available unless you go to Prize or go to Better Edge and try to put your own line. But getting that hook on the field goal, I like that. I also have Elijah Moore over 2.5 receptions for a player prop in that game. Next up, 49ers, Vikings. A little news today. 49ers, they were talking about how they tried to trade for Justin Jefferson. Imagine if they got that squared away during the draft. They were trying to do that. It's a 4.5-point spread. Obviously, no McCaffrey in this game. Vikings are at home. They got a win last week with Sam Darnold looking not bad. I mean, impressive for considering what you kind of expected out of him. Any opinions on 49ers, Vikings, or any plays on that game?
This is one where I'm targeting the total, and I'm going with the over here. I think that this is one where you look at the 49ers last week. I think they actually left quite a few points on the board against the Jets, believe it or not. Brock Purdy didn't throw for any touchdowns. Obviously, Jordan Mason ran wild all over the Jets. I think this is a bounce back spot for Brock Purdy in the passing offense a little bit. And I think that the Vikings offense led by Sam Darnold and Justin Jefferson is just risky enough to put up a decent fight here. I think this is one that might be pretty good for the first 3 quarters before the 49ers end up putting it away.
I agree with you on the total. I have a couple plays on the 49ers team total. I got them over 25.5, 29.5, and 33.5, sort of an escalator with that. I have Brandon Ayuk under 4.5 receptions, and I agree with you. I think the Vikings are going to keep this close. I'd have them plus 4.5. You can still get that line pretty much everywhere. I think that they're, week one, you try not to overreact one way or the other. I think the Vikings might be okay. I just think, they talked about the loss of Kirk Cousins, and we see what Kirk Cousins is doing right now. We'll talk about him later. 49ers, did they kind of squeak by just because the Jets are the Jets? It's an interesting way to look at that. Colts, Packers, obviously without Jordan Love, 2.5 point. The thing moved from the opener, basically 8 points as a result of that injury to Jordan Love, saying that the Packers would have been about a 6.5 point favorite all the way now to 2.5 and 3 some places. Any opinion on this game?
Yeah. So my main opinion on this game is really, I think that there was an overreaction to the Jordan Love line movement and to how well the Colts played at home, mind you, against Houston. I think Matt LaFleur can come up with a game plan that can give the Packers not only the ability to cover, but outright win in this one. Lambeau is still a very tough place to play. They played a very difficult Philadelphia Eagles offense. And with that long plane ride to Brazil, I like the Packers in this one with the points and even a little bit on the money line if you can get it at a good number.
Yeah, I think there's value. I did bet the Colts at 2.5 earlier in the week because I just like the number. I do think at 3 or more, either you bet the money line, like you said, or you take the 3 points and run with it. Malik Willis, I bet him under 169.5 passing yards. I didn't get on it early enough. I kind of got a bad number, but I still think he's not going to be able to throw the ball. We've seen that. And I think to your point, they're going to scheme Josh Jacobs and that type of style of play. And I don't think it's going to really fall on the shoulders of a quarterback that was traded for a 7th-round pick like 2 weeks ago. We'll keep moving. Giants and Commanders in the division. 1.5 point spread here. Commanders are favored at home. Any opinion on that NFC East matchup?
I came into the season bullish on the Commanders relatively, I think. I actually had them to cover against the Buccaneers, and that didn't go very well. But I'm still going to go with my initial conviction. I think that they are much better than the Giants at this point. I like them with the 1.5 points. Additionally, I like Jaden Daniels anytime touchdown scorer in this one. Ran it in for 2. There's not a great backfield in Washington. I think both of those plays I would jump on.
Yeah, I like that. I have the under in this game at 43.5. If I were touching a side, I think I would bet Commanders. But if I was going to get into the teasing business, tease that up to 7.5 with the Giants, I think that might be a good play too, crossing the 3 and 7, which are key numbers. Rams and Cardinals, we're now into the 4 o'clock window finally. This is kind of I think these 2 games, Giants, Commanders, Rams, and Cardinals, 2 division games, similar types of lines. This line shifted. It was Rams favored with all the injuries that they're going through. Now it's Cardinals favored, or maybe it shifted back in some places. No, Rams. Yeah. Rams are favored in some spots. Other spots you can see kind of the difference in some of the books, but that has flipped around a little bit. Very close game regardless. Division game. Any opinions on that one?
Not on the game itself, but I'm all in on Marvin Harrison Jr. having a bounce back week. I like just about all of his overs in this one. I think he probably made it known to Kyler Murray just how open he was at the end of that Bills game, and I don't think he misses him again.
Yeah, I agree. He's not going to have 1 reception for 4 yards today. I like Cooper Kupp in that game. Without Nakua out there, I think that he's going to get a ton of targets from Matthew Stafford. And if I had to lean, I'm going to go Rams in this one. Keeping it moving, Bengals, Chiefs. Obviously the Bengals probably suffered the worst loss of the week 1 slate. Chiefs look good in their game. That line's right around 5.5, 6.5 in most places. So just under a touchdown at home in Kansas City. Any opinions on this one?
This is one that I am kind of avoiding because I don't know if week 1 was a good representation of what the Bengals are. If it was, then I'm more than happy taking the points with the Chiefs. But I don't think you can count on that. I know that there's the Joe Burrow stat where he's what is it now? 1-9 in weeks 1 and 2. So if you can tease that Chiefs number to pretty much pick them, I would jump on that probably. But at the spread, I don't particularly love it.
Yeah, I have a weird feeling about this one. I feel like the Bengals can try to bounce back. I think the Chiefs, I think they look very good in week 1. It was a close game, obviously, against a very good team in the Ravens. But there's something to be said, and they joke about Burrowhead. I don't feel like that. I wouldn't subscribe to that necessarily, but I think this line is a little bit too high, and I agree with you. If I teased it down, I would feel comfortable, or put the Chiefs and, like the Cowboys or someone like that in a money line parlay, or the Texans instead of teasing it and do it that way. It's just something fishy about that game that I feel like there could be an upset because everybody's kind of abandoning the Bengals after last week's loss. Steelers, Broncos, this game, it's got to be a low total. I cannot imagine.
Yeah.
It's
I think it's
2 teams that can't score the ball, essentially. It is in Denver, I believe.
It is in Denver, yes.
In Denver, 36.5 for the total, which is insane. And I do know I am on that under. I bet it earlier in the week, I believe. Any opinion on this game?
I'm right there with you. Both of these offenses stink. And both of the defenses, conversely, are pretty good. And I think that's going to end up bearing out. I don't believe particularly in either of the quarterbacks throwing the football in this game. So I'm right there with you on the under.
Yeah, under 36.5. I have Broncos +3, and if I wanted to tease that up, it's not at the right number, but teasing it up to 9, it just seems like in a low point total game, getting 9 points, you should be able to stay within that one. But
yeah,
that might be a good game if you're trying to catch a nap at the 4:00 window to do that one. Bears Texans. That's the Sunday night football game. Or no, wait, no. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, that's
Sunday that is the Sunday night football game.
Bears Texans is a 6.5 point spread, 45 on the total. Caleb Williams did not look good in week 1. I think similar to Marvin Harrison. I think you're going to see a bounce back. They're both too talented, but Houston Texans look very good too. TJ Stroud, obviously very talented. Any opinion or plays on this game?
Yeah, so my opinion goes hand in hand with the whole Caleb Williams bounce back thought, and it's not necessarily on the spread, but I do like the total, especially since it's gone down to 44.5 in some places. Houston plays in a dome, so there's no consideration of the conditions. And I think both of these teams are going to be able to score the ball pretty well. Houston's got a very prolific offense. And I think that the Bears are going to show their scoring potential here in this one. I like over 44.5.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a high scoring game. I definitely agree with that. The Bears defense obviously contributed to that scoring last week with the ball in the end zone. So I think they're a good defense. I think they're going to be explosive. One of those teams that can put up points themselves, but I also think that they're going to give up points, unlike last week where they look very good on defense, but they also gave up points to Will Levis before they turned that game around. What I will say is this. I think every degenerate person, not us, but degenerate people at 4:00 when they're down at about 7:00 tonight, they are going to tease the Texans and the Eagles to make it down to basically the favorites just win on Sunday and Monday Night Football, and that's how they're going to make money back at the end of the weekend. So they don't have to settle up with their books or whatever it may be. One of those two teams is losing. The Texans and the Eagles are not going to both win. It's going to be such a heavy public play. I just feel weird about one of those two. And if I had to pick between the two, I think the Bears are the ones that can get it done. Not so much the Falcons over the Eagles, which is Monday Night Football. And that's the next game we'll talk about. I did see that as we started, right about it when we fired this up 20 minutes ago, that A.J. Brown is now officially out, which means in the next couple 30 minutes or so, I got to figure out who the hell I'm going to start at receiver, one of my fantasy teams. But Eagles still at what, 6.5, 5.5?
Yep.
5.5 now. Yeah, it was around 6. Some places it's still 6.5 if you want to bet on the Falcons. But 5.5. What do you think about this game? That's Monday Night Football tomorrow night.
So I completely agree. If there's one of these two teams that's vulnerable, it is Houston. I think the Eagles take that 5.5. I think Primetime Kirk makes yet another appearance in this one. He didn't particularly look good in week 1. And I just can't get that image out of my head. A few years ago, Vikings, Eagles, Monday Night Football. I think we might be in for a part 2 of that kind of showing for Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, they compared him to Cody Zeller in terms of mobility, Kirk Cousins. He cannot move whatsoever out of the pocket. He is a statue back there. Wouldn't be surprised if eventually we see Michael Penix get out there and throw the ball around, because the Falcons did not look good last week and their offense was supposed to be bounced back and Kirk was not good. So I really like the Eagles defense if you're doing fantasy and you can get them on the waiver wire or trade for somebody. But I do think that the Eagles take them down. I think it will be a competitive game. Obviously, Bijan Robinson, they have talent over there. It's just whether or not Kirk Cousins. And like you said, primetime Kirk is never a good bet necessarily. So, all right, Eric, did we cover anything? Anything you want to throw out there before we leave? Any best bets or whatever else? I mean, we covered every single game over the last 20 or so minutes.
Yeah, we got everything covered there. As far as, I feel probably best about Lamar Jackson rushing yards at over 49.5 or 50.5. Either of those two numbers, I think he coasts over that pretty comfortably, 75 plus. So that would probably be the one that I have the most conviction on this week.
Love it. So check out Prize Picks. You can do 5 RSN and get yourself $50 when you place a $5 lineup. That's a great deal with that. And then obviously Better Edge, we mentioned earlier, you get $20 when you sign up if you use the code 5RSN. We'll have content coming out throughout the day. Obviously, news breaking today talking about Tua and his intentions of potentially coming back once he's deemed healthy. And obviously, the Dolphins have a little bit of a break, not playing today. And then coming up next week, they go to Seattle. So check out 5 Reasons Sports, 3 yards per carry, all those different things we have. We have so many, you can't even list them. We'd be here until 1 o'clock. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll be back soon. Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, Sean.